The Second World War saw the rise of a terrifying force. During those dark days, as the conflict between European countries grew more intense, one country's military became unfathomably powerful: Germany. Adolf Hitler led the Third Reich, and under his leadership, the Wehrmacht, which was the unified armed forces of Nazi Germany, seemed unstoppable. With advanced technology and modern warfare weapons, the Germans conquered all they could across the continent and beyond, becoming a foe feared even by other developed nations. But what was the secret behind their terrifying strength? Join us as we explore the German army's secret technology. The Third Reich's technological advancement was unlike any seen during the Second World War. From developing Panzer tanks that dominated the battlefield to creating V-2 rockets that terrorized the enemy from the skies, the German Empire gained power beyond description. These advanced machinery enabled the German army to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies, as well as destroy all that was in their way. Starting with the Messerschmitt Me-262, which was the first operational jet-powered fighter aircraft in the world. The Me-262 was also known as the Swallow. The name had come from the aircraft's streamlined design that made it resemble the shape of a swallow bird. This machinery was designed by Dr. Willy Messerschmitt. The Me-262 was a unique aircraft, covering speeds of over 540 miles per hour. This technological development made its mark as the fastest aircraft of its time. The Me-262 was a great progress in the field of German aircraft design and technology. Its engines were faster than any of those available at the time. During aerial combat, the Germans had a great advantage over the other European countries, as this aircraft could move faster and more skillfully than any planes the Allies had. The Me-262 was first flown in 1942. However, its release was delayed due to production challenges and internal conflicts between the Nazi leaders. When the aircraft was finally released in 1944, Germany was already experiencing difficulties with the war. However, despite arriving late and in small supply, the Me-262 proved very helpful and aided the Germans' cause greatly. With the Me-262 now available, the German army shot down Allied bombers and fighters. However, there were a few shortcomings when using this weapon. The German army didn't have enough trained pilots to handle the Me-262, and as it had come a little late, it had already become difficult to change the tide of the war to their favor. However, despite these challenges, the Me-262 remained to be a great development. It had a great influence on the aviation field after the war. The creation of the Me-262 motivated the development of even better aircraft in the modern world. Another terrifying and fascinating technological development of the Germans was the V-2 rocket. The V-2 rocket was the first long-range guided ballistic missile in the world. This deadly weapon had officially been named the A-4. The V-2 rocket was created by Wernher von Braun and his team at the Peenemünde Army Research Center. Hitler had demanded a weapon for revenge, as he'd called it a vengeance weapon. At the time, the Allies were making significant advances in Europe, and Germany was on the receiving end of it. Hitler wanted to take revenge on the Allies and boost the morale of the German people. The V-2 rocket was an engineering wonder. The rocket could reach supersonic speeds and travel over 200 miles to where its target was. When it came to the destruction it caused, the damage was unfathomable. When it struck, it brought down entire city blocks in London and other cities, reducing them to scraps and ruins. The Germans first tested this weapon in October 1942, and it immediately became a very important aid in their cause of war. However, despite its great power, this weapon too had its shortcomings. The production cost of creating V-2 rockets was very high. An even more terrifying thing was its accuracy was limited. The inaccuracy was mainly due to inadequate guiding systems and the rocket's speed, which could sometimes be uncontrollable. So when small errors were made while determining the path the rocket was to follow, it affected the rocket's movement greatly, sometimes making it miss the target by several kilometers. This made the weapon difficult to use in situations where Germans wanted to attack a precise target. The Enigma machine was one of the most sophisticated creations of the Germans. This device was used to convey information during the war. By relying heavily on complex encryption technology, the Germans were able to secure their information from prying eyes. The Enigma machine used a series of rotors and plug boards to scramble messages into codes. These codes were impossible to access unless one had the necessary necessary decryption keys. The epitome of this creation was when a plug board was added. With the help of the plug board, the Germans mixed up the letters before the Enigma machine did its work, making it even more difficult to crack and access its contents. This fascinating development was an awe to the Germans and a hazard to the Allies. The Germans, realizing what they'd created, didn't hesitate to fully trust the Enigma's ability. They used it to transmit vital war information, like troop movements and battle plans. However, unknown to them, their terrifying creation had attracted the attention of the Allies. Led by mathematician Alan Turing, a group of code breakers at Bletchley Park were working hard to crack the Enigma. By combining mathematics, intelligence, and the development of early computers like Turing's bomb, they were able to crack the code and breach the German secret treasure. The Allies were now able to intercept and decipher German communication, something that derailed their war efforts significantly. This breakthrough was known as Ultra, and it provided the Allies with valuable information that changed the tide of the war. The Allies were now able to anticipate German plans and make necessary arrangements to counter them. Some historians believe that this great breakthrough shortened the war by several years and saved countless lives. However, the creation of the Enigma remained a testament to the power of human intelligence when faced with adversity. The Germans also created machinery to encounter war on the ground. They developed advanced tanks such as the Panther and Tiger. These giants were made of steel, and they'd been created to dominate the battlefield. By combining thick, sloped armor with powerful guns, the German army was able to destroy enemy tanks from a long distance. The creation of the Tiger I in particular had a devastating impact on the Allies. The tank had a powerful 88mm gun, which penetrated the armor of any Allied tank it came across. The tank was also secure, with its armor impossible to penetrate during direct combat. However, as good as it sounds, the machine also had its challenges. First of all, the Tiger I was slow. The tank was meant to be impenetrable, and so heavy armor had been used on it. Because of this, moving it around the battlefield was a challenge. The machine was also prone to mechanical breakdowns. The complexity of this creation and its demanding production cost made it difficult to produce them in large numbers. To address these concerns, the Germans went back to the drawing board and developed the Tiger II, which they also called the King Tiger. The King Tiger was an advanced version of the Tiger I. The tank had even thicker armor, and the 88mm gun had been improved to have better armor penetration. However, this development was introduced a little too late in the war and didn't make the difference the Germans wanted. Also, they'd failed to address key issues like mobility, with thicker armor making the tank heavier and even more difficult to move around. Like its predecessor, its supply was limited and it suffered from similar mechanical issues like breakdowns. During the same period that the Germans developed Tiger tanks, they also created the Panther. By creating the Panther, the Germans aimed to strike a balance between heavy firepower and armor, mobility, and lower production cost. The Germans also wanted to counter the Soviet T-34, a tank created by the Allies that had proved to be very effective. The Panther was a combination of the best elements of German and Soviet tank design. It featured sloped armor for more protection, a powerful 75mm gun, and great movement. Compared to the Tiger variations, the Panther proved to be very reliable. It was used on all major war fronts and became one of the most effective tanks of the war. In the Battle of Kursk especially, this development proved very vital. However, despite this technological development and superiority, the Germans were unable to reverse the course of the war. The Soviet and American tanks were too many. Also, by incorporating bombing campaigns, the Allies were able to cripple the German production of Panther and Tiger tanks. This ensured that these machines didn't turn the tide in Germany's favor. The German Navy was not left behind either in the development of advanced technologies. The development of U-boats, especially, was of great importance to the Germans' war efforts. The U-boats were created to disrupt Allied supply lines across the Atlantic. The Type 7 submarines were a class of U-boat designed to move silently and sink Allied ships. Electric motors were used to ensure the submarines were quiet when submerged, making them hard to detect. At the epitome of their achievements, these U-boats brought down millions of tons of British cargo, bringing devastating losses to the Allies. At the height of this campaign, the Germans brought Britain to the brink of starvation. However, the dominance of the U-boats didn't last long, as the Allies were quick to develop technologies and tactics to counter this threat. By developing technologies like sonar and radar, the Allies were able to detect U-boats in the depths of water and on the surface. With depth charges, Allied ships and aircraft targeted submerged U-boats and damaged or destroyed them using explosives. In response, the Germans created another variation of the U-boat, the Type 21 U-boat, also known as the Elektroboot. The Elektroboot was a major development and advancement of the previous German submarines. Unlike the others, this submarine could be submerged for longer periods and was faster, making it more difficult to detect. However, like most of their great developments, it was introduced to the war too late. Despite Germany's mind-blowing technological developments being unable to secure their win, their legacy lived on. These creations inspired and greatly influenced modern military technology many decades later.